To Greyhound Training Camp with Tony Boniferro. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm joined alongside Greyhound scout Kyle Barber. Kyle, how you doing today, bud?
Doing great, Bono. It's awesome to be up here for camp. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you've been really generous with us in your time over the years and over the last, 6-8 months. And, it almost kind of feels like this has been the build-up, right? You've kind of been building up for this. And now that we're finally at training camp, kind of talk a little bit about the atmosphere and kind of how you guys are doing as a staff.
Well, I think everybody's really excited. Like you just look at the building. The building's, you got the new clock in here. Everything looks awesome. The only thing that sucks is you don't get the fans rolling in.
Yeah.
But it's been really exciting. We've been talking about it as a staff since the last draft, and then you even kind of forget a little bit about the 04 draft that we never got a chance to see in a training camp. So now we can kind of get everybody together, get excited, see these kids on the ice, and the energy level has been really high. Obviously I'm a scout, I'm just watching, but talking to the coaches, talking to the kids, you can see that everybody's really amped up to be here. So.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about the arena, right? And that was the first thing I noticed coming in here. It almost feels like a whole new arena, like brand new lights. We've had people comment, is the camera really bright or is the ice really that white? Kind of talk a little bit about the upgrades that the Greyhound organization has made over the years or over this past year and a half, and things that the fans might see different.
Well, for starters, you can't help but notice the new scoreboard. This is awesome. This is NHL quality, and the stuff they can do. We were watching the goalie sessions and they had the video just dialed on the net, and it that's an unreal camera angle, and we were just looking at it, the stuff they can do with the scoreboard here. This is going to be a great fan experience for everybody. The new lights, from what I'm told, they can spotlight different areas, they can change it, they can dim it, they can do it really quick. So I think it's just going to be a great experience, and hopefully the fans get in here a lot sooner. But the rink looks great. I think this is one of the best buildings in the OHL for sure. I know I'm biased, but I don't think anyone can argue with it, especially with the upgrades that are going on now.
Yeah, that clock is insane. It's even got the 360-degree clock, camera at the bottom, right, of the clock, and you can go around. So it's really neat to see.
Yeah, it's got that Hockey Canada angle that's straight down to the center.
Yeah,
So.
That's awesome. All right, Kyle. So thanks. So now I want to talk a little bit about players and kind of what you've seen so far. So just kind of talk a little bit about what training camp is like. So what's an average day during camp, and how does that look for you guys?
Well, the schedule is usually made by Raf and Diener a couple weeks in advance, and then it's just depending on the day. So when the rookies came in, rookies or the first years of camp, the first couple days they came in and did fitness tests on Monday morning, and then they both hit the ice for practice, and then they had a game that night. So they had a long day the first day. But pace was high, a couple of nerves, I think. And then the second day, you saw that everybody kind of just settled a little bit. And then, those two games yesterday, I thought they were great. There's, guys were competing, they were battling. There's a lot of hits. I think there's a lot more emotion in this camp because I think everybody thinks after a year off, I got a really good chance of making this club. And a lot of guys, really had a good impression. So, but that's pretty well it. Today, I believe they did, the beep test and, 40-yard dash. And then they just couple practices this afternoon and then back to games. I think tomorrow to be a couple more practices, 2 games tomorrow, and then 1 practice and then red-white game after that. So that's pretty well the typical day. We'll meet, we'll discuss. We just kind of hang out at the rink all day, which is what I like to do anyways. So yeah, it's great.
Now, I know, for fans who were watching, there was some questions as to why certain players weren't playing, why certain players were playing. And tonight we're kind of seeing the veterans kind of come in. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the thought process there and why you guys split it up the way you did?
Well, I think with the COVID restrictions, we weren't able to run a rookie camp the way we normally do once the season's over, May, June, that sort of time frame. So it's kind of our first look to kind of give everybody an opportunity to kind of play against their peers a little bit, get some of the nerves out of the way before you bring the returning players in the lineup. So that was the thought process, especially with 2 rookie classes coming into their first camp at the same time. I think management felt it was a lot easier to kind of break them in slowly and then incorporate the veteran players later, and then that'll be the true test, right? Is just kind of see how do you play doing a one-on-one against Ryan O'Rourke or taking a face-off against Rory Cairns that. I think that'll be a big difference maker for sure.
All right, we're going to play a little game here with you. I know that there's a lot of kids, and we're not going to be able to name them all, but there's a few kids who, in my opinion, right, just from watching the games, have kind of caught my eye from one point or another and kind of, done something to make us notice them. So I'm going to name a player off, and then I just kind of want to get your opinion, not necessarily your opinion on the player, but just kind of how what kind of camp you think they're having and how they're playing in the game. So one of the first ones that I wanted to ask you about was the 4th-round pick from the 2021 draft, the LaSalle native Andrew Gibson on D.
Well, yeah, I think Gibson played for Team Red, who I've been coaching, and he's a great kid. Like on the bench, he's a big player. He's got that bomb of a shot we saw in the penalty shot in the second game, and I think he's really played well. So he's a player that we're really excited about. Big right-handed shot defenseman. So yeah, he's had a great couple of days. It'd be great to see him today.
I thought Henry Brock looked pretty strong yesterday and was really kind of was forechecking hard, and he's one of those 2003 kids. What do you have to say about his game?
Yeah, like again, he's another guy who played for Team Red. I thought he was really solid. He got that tough matchup against McConnell Barker a couple times, and I thought he did a pretty good job against him. So I thought he played pretty well.
Owen Shore, the 14th round pick from the 2021 draft. I mentioned him because I know he's a 14th round pick, but again, you want to talk about a good hard forecheck and a kid who's good on his skates, and he kind of seems like he fits that Greyhound model of like a high skill player that you guys were able to snag a little bit later in the draft.
Yeah, and like he scored that big goal to tie the game yesterday in the second game, and he was dancing all second game. I thought that was his best game of the 3, and seems to be a player that's getting more and more comfortable, so it would be great to watch him again today.
One player that's really caught my eye over the last few days too is he's a 7th round pick from the 2020 draft. Ottawa, Ontario native, someone who I'm sure you know fairly well, Owen Allard. Didn't know much about him before coming into camp, but man, he's really caught my eye throughout camp.
Yeah, he's got a lot of speed, eh?
Yeah.
Like, he's absolutely fly.
Yeah.
Great shot, great kid off the ice. Like talks to a lot of teammates. Like that was the one thing I really noticed on the bench is he's always talking about little details, trying to talk to his wingers all the time, cheering guys on, saying good shifts. So. Yeah, I think he's had a really good camp, and he's really done well for himself so far, and should get a good opportunity to continue to do so tonight. One
player who also really has jumped out at me, and he didn't so much the first game. I noticed him out there, and then the second game I really thought he upped his game, was Ethan Montroy, the 3rd round pick from this past year's draft out of Glenwater, Ontario. What's your thoughts on him so far?
I think he's a kid that the Greyhound fans are really going to like. He plays with a high level of intensity. Like the first night, I agree, he was probably a little bit quieter, but he scored that big penalty shot goal, ripping that glove side bar down, and then he just competes, he works, and he's got a little bit of edge to him too, right? Like he's kind of like chirps a little bit and gets guys going, but like that's kind of his style. He just competes. I think he talks a lot. Like when I talked to him in the pre-draft interview about lacrosse, played a lot of it, and just kind of like that brings his competitive like energy, I believe, to the rink. And like energy is, I think, a great way to describe him because he just goes. So
another player, a 9th round pick from the 2019 draft, Milton, Ontario native. He's a 2003, and this is a great opportunity for him. But Reece Chinden. Reece came out and had a hat trick in game 1, hat trick in game 2. He's all over the ice. In my opinion, he's been one of the best players on Team Red over the first few games. Just your thoughts on his game and how he's kind of progressed from the last time you watched him play.
Yeah, so like, the last time I believe I've seen him up close was his first camp with the 2003 draft class. And even at that camp, he was scoring at a pretty good clip. But he's come in here, he's kind of put up Zach Trott training camp numbers so far. And he's a kid who can really score, and he's got a great release off the rush. And another kid that's going to set him up for a good next 3 days, I think. So.
And my last person on Team Red that I want to ask you about, because this is my first time getting to watch Justin Klich, right? The 1st round pick from the 2021 draft. Again, an Ottawa, Ontario kid. And it's funny. I've been watching him very closely. And to me, and I've talked to a few people about this, he reminds me of a Nick Cousins type game. And the way he plays, it's almost like I'm watching Cousins, only without a lot of the extra stuff that Cousins brings, right? But the game seems similar, right? He's not afraid to get his nose dirty. He's not afraid to kind of mix it up a little bit, but he's also extremely highly skilled. Obviously, you've scouted him quite a bit. Just kind of talk a little bit about Justin.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people don't know, he's a really good great kid off the ice too. He talks to all his teammates. He took the time to get to know everybody the first day, and he was cheering them all by first name. Like normally, you just yell like, "Yeah, good job, Shorzy," or stuff like that. Like as you read the name bar, but he kind of knew everybody, so that's a big thing. But I think fans are gonna love him. Like obviously you see the compete level. Like he took that big hit in game 2 and then went out and kind of got the same guy back right after with a bigger hit. He's fast. He's very skilled. It just doesn't back down from anybody, right? Like he just competes, and loves it, right? And I think fans, when they come out to the rink this year, when everybody lets back in, they're gonna love watching him play.
All right, couple more guys, or probably 4 or 5 more guys I want to ask you about. Team White. Connor Toms, defenseman, obviously a Sault Ste. Marie native, the 3rd-round pick from the 2020 draft. In my opinion, and I know you won't say this, and that's fine, but in my opinion, he has been the best defenseman on the ice over the last, from what I've seen. I mean, he's just been absolutely dominant out on the ice on both sides. Kind of talk about his game, because I've watched him play with the Thunderbirds and watched him play growing up. And I cannot believe this is the same kid that I watched play, 2 years ago, right? It almost seems like he's stepped up his game significantly.
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of it has to do with his conditioning. Like he came in and he absolutely destroyed the fitness test. Like the kid's in really, really good shape. I think he did like close to 30 pull-ups. So like he was like absolutely killing it. So he's a tremendous athlete. He's in tremendous shape right now. So I agree with you. I thought he had a really good time. He's moving up and down the ice. Likes to get involved in the offense, and just the way he can kind of turn off guys, spin off checks, and move pucks off the ice will be a huge asset. And he'll be a player like every other rookie in the league. He'll like struggle a little bit to get things going, but when he does, like his skill set and his package is really good, and should set him up for a really good Greyhound career.
We talk a lot about how deep the defense is here for the Greyhounds this year, but 2 other defensemen I wanted to ask you about on Team White, who, in my opinion, I mean, Connor Toms has been great, but these 2 players have really caught my eye over this training camp. Has been the 5th-round pick from the 2020 draft and the 8th-round pick from the 2020 draft, Caden Carlisle and Nathaniel Davis. Both guys, I thought, I didn't really notice them much in the first game, but yesterday they were laying there. Davis was hitting people. Like it was just totally different game, and I actually got really excited watching those 2.
Yeah, they came out and they definitely upped their physical presence in game 2. Like I think Carlisle must have had 10 hits, and Davis like anytime going in the corner, he was laying the body on somebody. So yeah, like 2 physical players, pretty good skating players as well. So I think like they definitely bring a couple different tools to the blue line, but they had a really good couple days as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about I think 3 or 4 more guys. Sorry, because this is just great. So a guy who's also stood out to me, and it's so funny because I don't understand how the Greyhounds are able to get these kids so late. But a kid like Zach Corte, right, the 13th round pick from this year's draft, he has really stood out over the first couple games, and how he slid to the 13th round is just unbelievable to me. But just kind of talk about his game and what you know about him.
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about him because there wasn't a ton of video on him. But
okay.
Like from what I saw, he is a super skilled player. And like he scored a nice goal there last night in the scrimmage, and just seems to find himself in good pockets on the ice to create offense. So yeah, he was really going there. So
all right, the last one, because I know you got to go, and I want to ask you about goalies. But my favorite player that I've seen so far in this camp has been Landon Hooker. I've just loved his game. I love how quick he is, how big he is, how fast he is. Just kind of talk about his game and what you thought about him so far.
Yeah, I thought he was a player that continued to get better every game, right? And that's kind of what you want to do. You want to kind of get your feet wet and keep going. And again, a little bit quieter on night 1, but I think like he got way better in game 2, and then yesterday in game 3, like he was a threat every time he was in and around the net. And I think he ended up with a couple of goals, and then Donaldson had to slide across and make that unbelievable save with about 10 seconds left to rob him with a hat trick and keep us in that game, actually. So, I know he's had a really good chance, or a really good camp so far, and I think he's got a really good chance to prove himself for the next 3 days. And
we haven't had a chance to talk about Bryce Mcconnell Barker either, but my goodness, anyone who's watched these games, I mean, that kid, he's on another level.
Yeah, like, he's all world right now. Like when the fans can actually see him, or they're watching the live stream, I'm sure 18 jerseys will be flying off the shelf downstairs here at the Hound Pound.
Oh, big time.
He's been really good, like, and just dangerous. Like every time he's on the ice, I'm coaching Team Red. I'm like, we got to survive this one.
Yeah,
Come on, Bryce, take a short one for us here, because he's been really good. Like, and I think it kind of lost a little bit because he was drafted so far ago. He's 4th pick overall, right? And the Hounds haven't picked that early in quite a long time. So at least not since I've been here. So we're really excited about him, and I think he's a really, really good player.
Okay, so the big question that everyone has is the goaltending situation here in the Sioux. So, obviously there's going to be a spot or two available. And it's funny because my opinion from watching these games, the first game I thought Boyes and Taylor were unbelievable, like, 2 of the best goalies. And then yesterday, Ivanov and Schnenkel stood on their heads, and then Donaldson and Dunn have had their moments too, right? So it's just been crazy to watch, and I think that's going to be, I think that battle going forward is going to be really exciting.
No, I think you're right. Like, the one thing you look at the goaltenders is there's a lot of size in these goaltenders.
Yeah.
Like Boyes and Schenkel are absolutely monstrous, and they were out with Dunn the first time, and you're like, oh, Dunn doesn't look so big. Like, Dunn's like 6'2.5".
Yeah.
He's a monster as well. So I think all the goalies have had like great performances so far, and I think it's going to be a tight race, but I agree, like some guys have just had their moments. Everybody's been really solid, and I think goaltending's been really good, because I think the forwards and like the offense has been clicking, and the goaltending has been really solid. Like, there's been a lot of chances. It's been fast paced, and so I think if anyone's worried about the goaltending, I think we'll be okay right now.
Liam Philippe was another name on your team. I know he's a free agent out of Grafton who's really stood out to me too. He's another high-skilled guy. I can't believe he wasn't drafted either. Before I let you go, because I know you got to get down and coach, obviously with tonight's game, they've kind of brought in the veteran guys now, right? So we've had a chance to see the rookies really focus on that. You're behind the bench of one of the teams. What are you looking for tonight from these young guys?
Well, I would say if you're a young guy, and what I will tell the young guys is don't be intimidated that like some of these guys are NHL contracts signed and they've been NHL camps, and like just go out there and play your game. Like you're here for a reason. Don't blend in. Make an impression, and continue to play your game. And what we'll be looking for is to see the guys that can actually like make an impact in this kind of environment, right? Like, if you want to play in the OHL, play with OHL players and play your game and make that kind of impact. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And last thing before you go, Tanner Dickinson obviously yesterday, signed a big deal, signed his entry-level contract with St. Louis. Just you have any thoughts on Tanner?
Yeah, like obviously he's a tremendous player. Like we're just watching him doing the drills yesterday, and then today when he gets out there, he's so silky smooth. He's so skilled, and like just seeing him get his opportunity to sign it, I think is great, and especially like a free agent signing. Kid who was committed to a university team, and then ended up deciding to come play for the Sioux and ends up with an NHL contract out of it. I think it's a tremendous story, and speaks a lot to his character and the work he's put in since getting here, and to the program too, being able to develop these players with a little bit of with high-end skill and turning them into pros. And I think that's something this organization does extremely well, and I'm happy to play a real small part in it.
That's awesome, Kyle. Really appreciate your time as usual, man. You've always been great to us, and look forward to getting you back on, hopefully before training camp ends, and maybe once this team's announced, if we can have you on again and kind of give us your overall take just on the team. And I'd be curious to know, not why players didn't make the team, but why players did make the team. So, maybe if we could have you come on later on and even talk about why this guy was able to get there and kind of what he did. So that's great, Kyle. Really appreciate it. Best of luck tonight, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Bono, anytime.
Thanks.